Hello boys and girls, this is Mr. So. Welcome back for another lesson of biology. Today we're going through lesson 49 of chapter 30, the examples of natural selection. Before you start watching the video, remember to like and subscribe my channel and also share the video to your classmates. Let's start. In this video, I'm going to introduce you 3 examples of natural selection. The first one is peppermorph, 斑點蛾. The second one is insecticide-resistant insect pest. The third one is antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Let's take a look at the peppermorph first. Peppermorph, can you spot the 2 different types of peppermorph on the tree trunk? To understand natural selection, we must know that in the world, there are genetic variation among the peppermorph. There are white peppermorph, and the other one is a mutant of the white peppermorph, the black peppermorph. There are variations existing among the morph. At the beginning, the population percentage or the population proportion of the white peppermorph and the black peppermorph, they are exactly the same. Both of them are 50%. However, when there is a bird, the bird tries to feed on the peppermorph. Now the question is, which peppermorph is easily spotted on the white tree trunk? I think the answer is very obvious. You can spot the black peppermorph very easily. However, it's very hard for a bird to spot the white peppermorph. I could spot some of the white peppermorph in here. So it's not very easy for the bird to spot the white peppermorph, right? Because the tree trunk is white, the black peppermorph is easily seen by the birds. However, the white peppermorph, they have the camouflage. 偽裝, or in Chinese, we call it 保護色. So it is hard for the bird to spot the white peppermorph. So in here, you should know that there are genetic variation existing between the peppermorph, and now there are selection pressure occurring in the natural environment. That is the bird. The bird will try to feed on the morph. Which morph is easily surviving? It should be the white peppermorph. It is being selected for. While for the black peppermorph, it is easily spotted, so it is being selected against. So after the feeding, after the predation by the bird, you should know that the white peppermorph has a higher chance to survive and reproduce. After a very long time of predation by the bird, you should know the percentage, or what we call the proportion, of the white peppermorph will increase in the future generation. However, during the industrialization, 工業發展, the tree trunk were darkened. Do you know why? Because of the industrialization, there are many dark smoke coming out from the factories, leads to very severe air pollution, and these also blackened the tree trunk. After the industrialization, the tree trunk become blackened. Now, the black peppermorph is hard to be spotted, while now the white peppermorph is being very easily spotted. Before the industrialization, the tree trunk is white, so that the white peppermorph, they have a higher chance to survive and reproduce. Therefore, the white peppermorph, they have a higher proportion than that of the black peppermorph. Because the black peppermorph, they are easily spotted, they are being eaten by the bird. However, after the industrialization, the tree trunk is now black in color. The situation changed. The environment changed. On the opposite side, the white peppermorph this time is easily spotted. But for the black peppermorph, it is very hard to spot them. You can see one in here, or another one here. So they are very difficult to be spotted for the black peppermorph. After the industrialization, the white pepper moth are easily seen, while for the black pepper moth, they have the camouflage, protective color, 保護色. So during the industrialization, we should know that genetic variation of color exists between the pepper moth. The selection pressure is due to bird predation. Now it is selecting for the black pepper moth. They are better hiding. While they are selecting against the white pepper moth, they are easily spotted and being eaten. So at the end, you should know the black pepper moth, they have a high chance to survive and reproduce. At the end, you should know that the proportion of the black pepper moth will increase in the future generation. Let's take a look at a MCQ. In the 19th century, most of the pepper moth in England were white. However, after 100 years later, 98% of the moth in the industrial area were black, while those in the rural area, the countryside with a lot of trees, with good air quality, were white. So this is showing an example of, it should be an example of course, natural selection. The second example of natural selection is the insecticide-resistant insect pest, such as the mosquito,蚊. In the past, because of the excessive use of pesticides, some of the insects, they become resistant to the pesticides. Nowadays, the pesticides cannot kill those insects, such as the mosquito. Why? This is because of natural selection. In the beginning, genetic variation exists among the mosquito, and it is a genetic variation of the insecticide-resistant. Some of the mosquito, they're resistant to the DDT pesticides, while some of them, they're not resistant to the DDT pesticides. However, when the DDT pesticides was used excessively, the insecticide-resistant mosquito, they survive, while for the insecticide non-resistant mosquito, they are all killed. The natural selection occurs in the insecticide-resistant mosquito like this. At the beginning, there is genetic variation of insecticide-resistant exists among the pest or the mosquito. Now the selective pressure is the excessive use of DDT, the pesticides. Now it is selecting for the resistant pest, the insecticide-resistant mosquito. While it is selecting against, that means killing, the insecticide non-resistant pest. So therefore, at the end, which resistant or non-resistant pests have a greater chance to survive and reproduce? It will be the resistant pest. Greater chance to survive and reproduce. So therefore, the proportion of the resistant pest increase at the end. Let's take a look at an MCQ on page 9 of your textbook. Long-term and repeated use of an insecticide leads to an increase in the population of the mosquito resistant to the insecticide. Which of the following correctly explain this phenomenon? So based on your understanding on the previous case, this is a natural selection. Why would the mosquito having resistant more and more? This is because those mosquito with the resistance, they are having a higher chance to survive and reproduce. So the answer should be C. The last example of natural selection is the antibiotic-resistant bacteria. First of all, there is a genetic variation of the antibiotic resistance among bacteria. Some of them, they are resistant to antibiotics. Some of them, they are not resistant to antibiotics. To explain natural selection, there is genetic variation of antibiotic resistance. Exists among the bacteria. Now the selection pressure is the excessive use of antibiotics. And now, this excessive use of antibiotics, it is selecting for the antibiotic-resistant bacteria. While it is selecting against, that means killing, eliminating most of the non-antibiotic resistant bacteria. So that at the end, the antibiotic-resistant bacteria have a higher chance to survive and reproduce. So at the end, you can conclude that the proportion of the antibiotic-resistant bacteria increase in the next generation. An example of antibiotic-resistant bacteria is the Staphylococcus aureus, 金黃葡萄球菌. Some of the strains, they are resistant to the penicillin antibiotics and the methicillin antibiotics. They are very hard to kill when you have such bacteria in their body. If these highly resistant bacteria infected your body, you cannot stop their growth. They will just keep damaging your body non-stop. You have no antibiotics to kill them. It will be very horrible. The last question of this video. Can you explain why the indiscriminate use of an antibiotics, 濫用抗生素, will lead to an increase in the population of bacteria resistant to an antibiotics? Okay, think about it in this way. The non-resistant bacteria, they are killed by the antibiotics. However, the resistant bacteria, they remains. They have a higher chance to survive and reproduce than the non-resistant bacteria. So therefore, the proportion of the resistant bacteria tends to increase after many generations. So the correct answer should be C. Nowadays, with more understanding and knowledge in the genetics, we know that all the variation, they are caused by mutation in the DNA. So we define the Darwinism into the neo-Darwinism, 新達爾文主義. Okay, it's just a new term. That's it for the lesson about the example of natural selection. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.